Okay, we have a forum, so we're gonna get started. First with the invocation for Dale. Slates off the wall.
Dear Lord, we thank so much for this day. And Lord, we thank so much for your water resource. Lord, we thank so much for the opportunity that we have to at least try to keep water out here in our country, Lord, in West Texas. Lord, I ask that you lead and guide us. Lord, I pray that you give us a clear mind and help us with our decisions. Lord, I ask that you lead and guide us in all we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. All right. I got a helper. Okay, so we're gonna go around the room and introduce ourselves, and we'll do those in person first, and then those on the Zoom, I'm gonna ask you to say your name and who you represent as well. I will start. My name is Meredith Allen. I'm the general manager for the Kimball, Menard, and Sutton County Water Districts.
Jim Burton, Eco-Kai Groundwater Consultant.
Cindy Colley, Plateau Underground Water District in El Dorado.
I'm Paul Babb, Hill Country Underground.
Brenda Hector, Glasscock Groundwater.
Dale Adams, West Texas Groundwater Conservation District.
Leon Braden, Live Pancake School Water Conservation District.
Greg Perrin, Reeves County Groundwater.
JJ Weatherby, Santa Rita Underground Water Conservation District. Diana Thomas, Sterling and Green County Water Districts.
Tim Marlin, Real Edwards Conservation and Reclamation District.
Slate Williams, Crockett County Groundwater Conservation District. Wes Robinson, Kinney County Groundwater Conservation District. Bill Hutchison, Consultant.
Ty Edwards, Middle Pecos Groundwater Conservation District, Pecos County.
All right, Vince, you want to start?
Vince Claus, Tracy Nichols, here putting on behalf of Kinney County Groundwater Conservation District. Jim Hopkins, Texas Water Development.
Heather Jackson, Smart Volume.
John Moras, Texas Water Development Board.
James Beach, AGS, here for Reeves County.
Allison Struby, Colorado River Municipal Water District.
Al Wilson with the Baltimore Springs Conservation Association.
Tracy Bulwer, permanent holder and watershed management focus from Texas A&M.
Julie Louis, the Nature Conservancy.
Did you just walk in?
Yes.
And writing your name down. All right, you want to introduce yourselves?
No. I'm Katie Hager. I'm the new office assistant in Kimball County, Georgia.
Lydia Damon, Office Manager for Menard County.
And if you have not signed in, be sure to sign in, okay, before you leave. I think I saw everybody, but not sure. Okay, we'll go on to the those on Zoom. If you will introduce yourself.
Yeah, you're all muted. We can start with Audrey Cooper.
Yeah, good morning. This is Audrey Cooper with Boyd Gosling, just observing the GMA7 meeting today. Thank you.
Kerr Wardlaw, Valverde County Commissioner, Precinct 1 in Del Rio.
I'm Isaac Johnson, consultant with Advanced Groundwater Solutions, here for Reeves County GCD.
What was he?
Reeves.
I'm Yihong Chen, with AGS for Reeves County.
I think that's
Good morning. This is Ryan Reed on behalf of Cockrell Investment Partners, observing this morning.
What about David?
David Palmer. He's a board member for Kinney County.
Okay. All right, that's everybody. I think I got them written down. All right, next we will go to public comment. Did anybody sign up to give public comment today? Or 3 or 7? No public comment? All right, Seeing none, we'll go on to 4. That's you.
Anybody on Zoom?
Oh yeah, does anybody on Zoom have any public comment? No. I'm not seeing any public comment requests. You gonna do 4?
Yeah, we have item number 4 is approval of the GMA 3 minutes. Myself and Reeves County are the only 2 members in that GMA. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone against it? No.
Okay.
Can I, oh, you can, okay.
All right, we'll move on to item 5. I did send those to you this morning early, sorry, but there was also a copy of the minutes on the table. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I just see one. Coke County is listed as present and then it's listed as absent. Question.
Okay, I think they were absent. From last year or last year? Okay, so I'll remove her name. Okay, so I'll amend that to remove. Sorry, I'm trying to write the notes. Yes, I'll amend that to remove Coke from the present list. I don't think they were present. Okay. Any other edits? No? Okay, I'll entertain the motion. Williams makes a motion to approve the minutes. As corrected, yes. Leon Braden seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll move on to the Water Development Board updates. If y'all want to come up here, that'd be great. Notes for me? You have a note for me? No? Okay. I'll take notes. Oh,
No, it's pretty straightforward.
okay.
Agriculture grants are due today at 2 p.m. Anybody?
If you haven't got it in,
Changes to chapter 366, chapter 365 will go to the Texas Water Development Board on the 31st. And the update will reflect legislature changes, so if you want to keep up with that, you can watch our board meetings more closely. And we have a lot of GMA meetings during this time. So, for example, this month, there are 12 GMA meetings just before March 31st. So if you have anything for us, we may have a little delay communication. And with that, I'll pass it on to Heather Dodson.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm Heather Dodson, data team lead for the groundwater, for the Texas Water Development Board Groundwater Division. First, I wanted to introduce Hutchison. She is our newest data analyst on our team. So this goes along with our next update, which is we're halfway through our fiscal year now. So you're going to start getting those nagging emails from us for your water level measurements. So you may see Hutchison sometimes on the emails. So we wanted to let you know. And then just a comment on the water levels. We know a lot of GCDs are actually starting to collect real-time hourly data on equipment for those. And a lot of you are already sending us that like daily data. Some are still send like just one measurement a year, which is all we've ever asked for in the past. But if you've got that real-time data and like hourly, daily data, we will take everything that you've got. We'd like to start, even though it's not on like our water data for Texas, we can take and process that hourly data. So we typically upload the daily high value. So if you're able to download that easily and send that per day, that's great. If not, you can send us the hourly data, and we can get that. If you, I haven't on the meeting next week, so I'm not sure, but if you're using WellIntel devices, I've got a meeting with Charles Journey. I'm not sure about the last name there, next week, and he's trying to work on something for WellIntel devices that will kind of make it easier for everybody to like get that data downloaded and sent to us. So hopefully that'll be something that helps. And I think most all of you are already water level data cooperators, which is great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And if you're not and you would like to, or you have data and you haven't reached out, please feel free to reach out to us and we can kind of work with you on how you can get your data to us and include it in the groundwater database. That's all.
Sorry, yeah, no,
That's okay.
Glad we're all doing a really good job of water levels. That's great. That's what I heard from the. Okay. Sorry, I'm writing notes. Okay. We can move on to, unless you have anything. No. Let's move on to number 7, presentation by Dr. Bill.
First off, thank you for having a joint meeting between 3 and 7. It helps my schedule a lot, not having the 2 different meetings.
No? Oh, hold on. Let me share my screen with those on Zoom.
Okay, the topics we're going to cover today. Go to the next slide.
Hold on. It's not working.
Okay.
You popped up for a second.
Can you see my, maybe I need to. This one?
Yeah, that's good.
Work?
Yep.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Go to the next slide. Okay, so in the last couple of meetings, we've been talking about this DFC comparison with real data in compliance with the new HB requirements of HB 2078. So I'll give an update on that. I'll give an update on the calibration of the alternative GAM that's got to get done. GAM simulations and the reports, the documents, right? Okay, so in GMA3, we've completed the DFC comparison, and the report was from back in September and went over that at the meeting in October. And basically, after going through all those data, I recommended that the Capitan be classified as not relevant for purposes of planning because of no data. The DOCM, same thing. The Plateau and Pecos Valley needed to update the GAM, Pecos and Reeves counties based on that data analysis. And then the Rustler is also recommended for not relevant status. In GMA 7, go to the next slide.
It's frozen. I'm clicking it, I promise.
About 5. Yes, it's going to go for us.
Just out of here. did, and it's not going out. There we go. Oh, I'm just gonna do it from here.
Okay. I'll make it two. Okay, in GMA3, this was the breakdown of how we looked at this county by county, and we were comparing actual average drawdown with average simulated drawdown. And when you subtract simulated from average, if it's a positive number, that means your DFC is being achieved. If it's negative, it isn't. And the yellow ones are the Pecos and Reeves, and this has more to do with data refined. The model from 2009, 2010 vintage had some problems, and this identified those, and so that prompted the update of the model, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. In GMA7 back in August, I presented what we call the phase one of the DFC comparison. And basically, Capitan, same problem, no data. So we're recommending that as not relevant. Now the Plateau, Pecos Valley, and Trinity, I recommended the phase two because there were certain counties that didn't have the standard data in the database. And we're gonna have to do some more, and I'll talk about that. And then part of that was recommending the update of the GAM. We talked a lot about Kinney County. Vince is gonna talk about that in a little bit. And recommended, after going through a bunch of data, recommended the classification of Alberta County is not relevant. Jerry Simpson from Alberta County was here supporting that. And that's the approach we're taking. In the High Plains, that's the document, the Ogallala, again, classified as not relevant. I know Rita, your board has confirmed that.
That's correct.
Lano Uplift, Marble Falls has always been not relevant. Continue that. Ellenberger said 7, Hickory, that also needed a phase two. We needed to dig deeper into the data in order to do this comparison. And the Rustler, again, classified as not relevant. Okay. So the phase two, the initial work of that I presented in November. Diana had sent me over data from Erie and Sterling. I rolled that in. The work on the Edwards-Trinity Plateau, Pecos Valley Trinity, everything's been updated. I've done the interpolations. The Hickory is on hold because Meredith is finding new data that we still need to roll into it. And I'll get all the documentation complete once we get this resolved, and won't invoice until we get the documentation. Good. So this is a summary of all the differences. Again, we're taking simulated drawdown and subtracting average drawdown. That's a difference. If it's positive, you're meeting the DFC. If it's negative, that's different. Most things are on the positive side. The average difference is about 1.6 feet, with more on the blue than on the red. Good. As the hydrographs, you can see the red line represents the simulated drawdown. You would expect that to continue to decline as time goes on. The blue line kind of scatters around, but it's generally above the red line, which means the DFC is being achieved. At the very end, you see some of the weird stuff. That's because there's only a few points in comparison to the others. It's strictly a function of what data is available. On a county by county basis, this is the table that is useful to look at this and compare the actual data with the simulated data and the differences. Go ahead. So this was the stuff or the data I presented at the last meeting with Diana's data. I have to split it out as nearest point or full grid, nearest active or full grid, because in Erie and Sterling counties, there's these areas that are not officially part of the aquifer and or in the model, but they're close enough. So there's two different ways to look at it. Both are showing no problem with achieving the DFC. Go ahead. These are the three counties I had to update with interpolated data. There was no baseline data point on the date we were interested in 2010, but there were data before 10 and after 10. So I took those data and interpolated and guessed at a baseline data point. And so now I can fill in Coke, Kimball, and Taylor counties. And that's designated by the TWDB int interpolated data. And Kimball and Taylor find Coke's a -5, not great. That got added to the updated list. You'll look, if you look closely, you'll see Nolan County's a little off, but that's a not relevant area, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, go ahead. So these are the three significant negative differences where we have to update the alternative GAM. So we have Pecos and Reeves from GMA 3, and then we have these three counties in GMA 7. Good. So that leads us to the updated calibration of the alternative GAM. So I've been able to adjust the transmissivity numbers in the Pecos and Reeves County portions in GMA 3, and that worked. It improved the differences without impacting overall model calibration. In fact, calibration's a little bit better. However, that approach did not work in GMA 7 in Copial and Terrell counties. And I essentially had this up to the point where I was ready to try different things like the recharge, and then I got pulled away on 2 other things. So I apologize. So I should have this done by the end of the month, including the documentation. Okay, so this leads us to the simulations. Now, I've asked for input. Cindy gave me a great range of 15,000 to 17,000. You can see it's broken down by how much the GAM estimated pumping was in 05, what the Water Development Board had in 2023, what the current MAG is. Cindy wants a little bit more to run through that, and I'll do that.
A little bit.
So this is the last chance. Now, one thing we did back in 2010, because it's such a large group and the model doesn't take hardly any time to run, you could do it at the next meeting, but it would be better if I got numbers ahead of time. So go to the next slide. Here's GMA 3. Now I got papers lumped together because that's just in terms of thinking about the model. It doesn't, you can distinguish between 3 and 7, but for input purposes, and I don't think you're all going to change anything anyway. But here's an opportunity for that MAG number is the one I input into the model. Go ahead. And then for GMA 7, same kind of thing. You get a sense of what the last year pumping was in the calibrated model, what the board estimates is to get 23, and what the current MAG is. And then if you hit the thing again, there it is. I got Schleifer County already slotted in somewhere between 15 and 17,000. So that's how the numbers kind of stack up. Okay.
How does that pumping compare to historical pumping?
That's what the first 2 columns are. The first column is what a model has as an estimate of historical pumping in 05. And the second column is what the Water Development Board estimates the pumping was in 2023.
And that's based on what we report to them.
You and utilities, and yeah, that's a whole part of the Water Development Board.
Most of this goes to oil and gas use? Or?
Oil and gas is generally problematic in terms of reliability and coverage. That's why I always use these as estimates, and then always have to kind of think about that. That's a big problem down in South Texas. So these numbers are not 100% reliable, but it's more of a guideline and an understanding of context.
Okay, sorry, I'm looking at it. So everybody got a chance to look at their county?
So these numbers a lot of these numbers were from the original run back in 2010. And the philosophy or the concept behind it was to provide some opportunity for growth. Some people looked at it more as what's your permit total? I know that's what Cindy's interested in. I know that's what Middle Pecos was all about back in 10, was the permit totals. So it's up to each individual district to decide how they view that as more of a policy decision. It's not really a technical decision. Okay, so Lano uplift simulations. What we did in 16 was essentially no increase in pumping from the calibration period. That was the input that was received 10 years ago. The San Angelo pumping in the Hickory may be higher than what was simulated. This sort of popped up in the last week. And it's a complex litigation issue. We're starting to get some anecdotal groundwater level data that we need to get more detailed stuff. And I need some discussion today or clarification. Unlike the Plateau model, we can't run this model at the meeting. It takes about 2 hours to run. So we need to get this sorted out fairly quickly. Let's go to the next slide.
But really, that's just me and David.
Yeah.
Are the only two? I know. Because it's not in my district, but it's in my county.
Here's the breakdown. Ellenberg, Sensata, again, if you compare the maximum pumping before 10 and the mag, they're very similar, if not exact. That was designed on purpose. That's what the Hickory district wanted. On the right is the Hickory, same basic philosophy, but go ahead and hit the button there. So I got this on Monday from Meredith. It was a San Angelo well report, and they broke it down by individual well, and some reports they told me, some they didn't. I didn't look at it. Tulsa County and Menard County. And if you compare these numbers with the MAG there at the bottom, you can see that in 2025, there was a big increase in pumping in both McCulloch and Menard. The problem is the totals they provided don't agree with another piece of paper that has the individual wells listed. So I don't know what's going on. This, again, I got this on Monday, so I'm still working through it. The totals for 24 matched up beautifully. So these are things we got to get working on. I know Meredith's working on this, Allison McDonald's working on it, and we'll get it resolved by the end of it. But we need to get this sorted out because we don't want to have pumping numbers that are inconsistent with real pumping. Okay, the reports. Go through these. In GMA3, the draft explanatory report, since everything else is not relevant, there'll be one report for the Plateau and Pecos Valley. For GMA7, there'll be 2 explanatory reports, one for the Plateau Pecos Valley Trinity group and one for the Lano Uplift group. I'm hoping to have this done before we have to vote on the proposed DFC. Now, statute doesn't require that. You only have to have this done at the very end of the process. But I've always liked to have these available for the districts for their public hearing. Have to happen in the summer. So if we're going to run models at the next meeting, I might have to push that off for a week so we can just do the vote on the proposed DFC, be done with it, get the documents to you, a week or so later. That's a possibility. We'll work on that. Now, the non-relevant documentation in 3, we've already done igneous and overall. So I've got to develop 3 new ones, Capitan, Docket, and Rustler. That'll be available before we have our next meeting. And for 7, we have existing documentation for the Blaine Cross Timbers, Igneous, LaPen, and Seymour. And I need to get Capitan, Docket, Ogallala, and Rustler done. That'll be done before we have another meeting. So in terms of budget, schedule, work plan, all that, the next table is for 3. I'll invoice $2,500 for the meeting. All the other tasks are almost done. I just haven't finished the documentation. I'll we'll take care of that later. Same thing for 7, invoice for the meeting. The phase 2 is done, just have to finish up for that, or for Plateau, I need to finish it up for Llano. Get all the reports done, update the model, finish that up, etc. So that's all I've got.
Do we need a motion to approve any of these budgets or?
Well,
No, I think we already did.
she needs to approve it so you can pay me. I guess you.
Oh, yeah.
You do the same.
Are we gonna do, we never really did the like official contract like we did the previous year, right? Okay. Okay.
No, but you've been paying me.
Well, we have it, we do have one. Just, yeah, okay. You have a question?
Yeah. Bill, what's the process for the getting approval on the recalibration?
Oh, it's a good question. So what will happen is once I get the documentation done on the recalibrated model, GMA 3 and GMA 7 will have to adopt resolutions saying this should be an update to the model. That gets sent in the board. The Water Development Board then reviews it, and it's a minor update, so there'd be I think it's a 60-day public comment period. And it's basically just administrative steps that have to be taken for them to use that as the model they will use to calculate max. So I've talked to the board, staff, Natalie and Darren. There doesn't seem to be any problem with this. No controversy. It's just a step they'll have to take. Technically, even if it takes essentially the rest of the year, it's no problem because it won't be officially used in MAG calculations until 27 anyway. So we're not losing any time on that, but that'll be one of the items on the next agenda to formally adopt a resolution to send in to the board. Meredith will have to send it in and Ty will have to send it in because they have to come from
Coordinators.
coordinators.
We need a motion to adopt those at the next meeting on the agenda, right?
Not just adopt them, but pass a resolution that says, here's what we did and why we did it, and we want you to approve it as a update to the GAM.
Will we have access to those files at any point?
When I get them done.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I had a question on the Valverde non-relevancy. At the beginning, you mentioned Jerry Simpson advocated for it, and that's why the GMA 7 was moving forward with that determination. I have a concern about that because I'm in neighboring Kinney County and I work in Valverde County with community members. And my understanding is with a non-relevant declaration, that leaves the model available groundwater as undefined, meaning someone could hire a private water speculator to prove up a certain water availability in a certain area. I don't want to see water being sold out of Valverde County, and I understand the hydrologic system in Valverde is connected to that of Kinney County. So we're busting our ass in Kinney to protect our groundwater. I want to make sure that there's some measure of protection in lieu of a groundwater district in Valverde, so that water doesn't just leave the county. Is there scientific basis for that determination, or is it purely based on the advocacy of the representatives from that county?
You were not at the meeting when we went over this. It was a lengthy discussion back in August.
August.
Yeah, August.
I was heard
No,
on,
no,
but
we're not. There were several slides. We can get you the slideshow. And I went through a pretty detailed analysis of the data, a pretty detailed analysis of what it would mean if you have a DFC versus if you don't. The bottom line from the policy standpoint is that if there's no DFC, then there's no MAC. Then that responsibility falls on Region J. This group does not have Valverde representation, Region J does. And Jerry's argument wasn't anything other than leave the MAG decision or the available groundwater decision where Valverde has formal representation, that's at region J. The fact that there's no GCD is the problem. That's a fundamental problem because the fact that there's an available groundwater in the regional plan, all that is some sort of limit on a project to get state money. If someone comes in privately funded with no GCD, it doesn't matter what the MAG does. They can, because there's no district there.
So I guess the question was, what is, if you can please reiterate for those who weren't at the August meeting, who will be listening over Zoom, what is the scientific basis for non-relevancy in Valverde?
The bottom line is that the spring is tied to the reservoir level at Lake Amistad. And so the water levels go up and down in Amistad, the spring flow goes up and down. There's really not much pumping in Valverde County currently.
Is that measured by anyone?
Is what measured?
It is being measured by anyone. How can nothing be known if there is no groundwater?
I'm sorry, what?
How is the pumping, the amount of pumping known if there's no groundwater district to monitor that pumping?
Well, there's estimates that the Water Development Board has made over the years. Now, those are not always consistent because sometimes they attribute City of Del Rio water use to groundwater, and sometimes they don't. Del Rio gets its water from the spring. And so it's not really groundwater because they're not pumping it.
They're drilling a new well as part of their master water plan going on right now. So, and they have another well, Hamilton well, that may be used, but they're going to be drawing groundwater.
We're not going to get into an argument.
That's exactly the problem.
We're not
We
going to
don't
get
have
into an argument over
Valverde County
details
district. So
of accuracy of pumping data. It's really not relevant to this group.
It's mostly on topic. It is on topic, yes. So talking about non-relevancy of Alberti. So it can't be said that there's not much pumping because it's not known how much pumping is occurring in Alberti.
You're wanting to protect the spring though, right?
I'm wanting to.
They're asking us to remove the DFC so that people will not come and take your water. So there's not 50,000 acre feet available to take here. That is why they want it to be removed.
Bringing it to zero.
So they can't go get funding to get the water to take it.
And that is a misunderstanding that one of us has, because I had these discussions with Mr. Simpson. He's under the impression non-relevancy means a MAG of 0. It doesn't. It means an undefined MAG.
No, that's not true. That's yes.
So what is true?
What is true is Jerry is fully aware that the available groundwater will be set by region J. Exactly. That's exactly what he said in August. He understands the process a lot better than a lot of other people.
Isn't he the chairman of the region? Or he's
Well, he was. I don't know if he still is.
well, and the point is too is, I mean, the bottom line is too is there's no Valverde County district. There's no way for us to verify that, and it's not appropriate. And we've already voted on that, so we can move on.
We go back in history. I was the one that made the motion to adopt the DSC to have a spring flow. And then TWDB and the legislature's gone and tried to force a groundwater district there. And they've tried to use those numbers against them, really. Try to force regulation, force those numbers on them. It's going to be better for y'all to not have a MAG right now. And then go get a groundwater district and let locals decide what they want to do. It's not our job to force it down y'all's throat.
No, that's not. I just wanted to put it on the table. Thank you for your response.
But, and it sets the idea that you have this, it was 50,000.
Yeah, it is 50,000 right now.
Yeah, then that means that that's what's available and we don't have a district to do the monitoring, to make sure, we don't know.
At the last DSC, there was a lot of people coming in wanting to ship water out of that county.
I understand there still are.
Well, we can't do anything about that, unfortunately. Okay, anybody else have any other questions? For Dr. Bill?
I have a really quick question. And how are we my district, going to report any measurements? We have a lot of historic data for the Edwards-Trinity in my district. Would you like to have that information? That would help.
Have you sent it to the state?
I don't recall, since I've been at the district, I have, but prior to me being at the district, I'm certain.
Yeah. The data, I don't remember having any problem with data from your county in this work. But it would always be good to send that. Where's Heather? There's Heather. Right there. Because of HB 2078, it's really highlighted the importance of sending that data into the Water Development Board to make sure it's part of the groundwater database. And I know the board's going to have a lot of inquiries because, I don't know if you've heard GMA2, a lot of data's not there. So I did an analysis for them, and back in 2012, 13, 14, there's loads of data, and all of a sudden it just dropped off dramatically. And all the districts are saying, "Where's our data? Where's our data?" I said, "It's not in the database."
And that's kind of the problem we have in our district. There was a few years that there was not any data recorded.
Right.
Or realistically, the data was inaccurate. I think water levels were taken from a desk, sitting at a desk versus going out and actually getting the samples in the field. And so the data that we currently use, for annual report inspections, we have to finagle it just a little bit. Instead of doing a 10-year average, we'll do a 5 or a 9-year, just to make sure we have data. But I'll submit that, so then you can have a copy of it for our records.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Any other questions on the presentation? Okay. Next is item 8, approval of recommendation. So you spelled the plan out.
So
Do we need to?
what we need, there's a couple of, aside from the obvious, I just need to get the model done. I need to get an update on, I got Cindy's numbers. If someone else has numbers, get them to me, but it didn't sound like anybody was that worried about it. The biggest question is, should I run the thing?
Yes.
And we have the meeting, and I'll have, well, let's do it this way. For the Plateau, I'll be capable of running it at the meeting if we need to. For the Llano, it's a lot more critical that I get input, but that's really just you and David. To have that run completed before the meeting.
Yeah.
So we can do that on the side. And so the best that we probably only need one more meeting, but we might need 2. I don't know. I can't see this being a big problem. So I would suggest let's fix the Llano, the hickory. That's the biggest problem. I'll have everything run with Cindy's numbers and the numbers, any other numbers I might get, and then we can get together and get this thing wrapped up next month.
Okay. All right. But is everybody else good with doing model runs in the next meeting? I want to see it personally. So, just because I'm curious.
The other thing is, Greg, are you okay with coming out here for another joint meeting? That's the other thing. If we could do a joint meeting, that'd be
ideal.
That'd be ideal. Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you making a haul.
It's
a great place to visit. All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommended plan to do get Hickory straight prior to the meeting, and then do some model runs for the Edwards-Trinity at the next meeting.
Well, I'll do some beforehand.
Some before.
And then we'll, if there's a need, we can do them at the meeting.
I would move to approve Dr. Hutchison's recommendation.
Make a motion.
Okay, I got him. Okay. Dale, Wes made the motion. Dale seconded.
Put it in there any way you want.
Dale, all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, Motion carried. All right, we will move on to presentation by Vince Claus for Kinney County. Is it working on this? It's like rolling even though I'm not touching it.
I've been already tried driving. You're gonna drive?
You want to? You can
No.
just go over.
No, I'll just ask next.
Okay.
All right, awesome.
Somebody else take good notes. I'm doing too many things at once right now.
Oh, that-
No, it's fine. Y'all see okay? We're good.
And let's go.
All right, good morning. Today I'm here on behalf of the Kinney County Groundwater Conservation District. As Dr. Hutchison noted earlier in his presentation, today we'll be discussing the DFC for Kinney County in GMA, specifically related to the Edwards-Trinity Plateau Aquifer. This is something we've been discussing for several months as a joint planning group. Today we're going to do a couple of things here. First thing is provide a little bit of background context for why we're revising the DFC or why the district would like to revise their DFC. A little bit of a stroll down memory lane as it relates to kind of what's happened here over the last 6 months in terms of discussions at the district level. And then we're going to get into a discussion on the 9 factors here to kind of help streamline some of this for Dr. Hutchison. We're also preparing a report where we're going to kind of outline some of this in detail that will hopefully help support Dr. Bill here as he prepares the explanatory report. So you can give me about 20 minutes and about 77,000 acre feet of pumping. That pumping was pumping that the district provided the Texas Water Development Board as their annual use, although that was in fact just the permanent totals at the time. So a little bit of disconnect there in some of the calibration that went into the model. But the end results, they were still workable, they were usable. And some of those end results that were then used to inform the DFC were an average spring flow of 23.9 CFS and a median spring flow of 24.4 CFS. What we have here on the right side of the screen, this is that DFC through time. Unfortunately, what's happened here in Kinney County is we've played a little bit of a game of telephone where some things, from one planning cycle to the next, slight variations, slight changes led to some disconnect in terms of how the DFC was being interpreted locally, what the management plan said specifically about the DFC, how the district board, how the district's consultant were addressing, compliance and attainment of that DFC on an annual basis. So we'll get into that in a little bit here, but this slide is just to kind of highlight some of those changes. So 2011, we specifically called out scenario 3. 2016, we removed that specific call out and instead referenced the groundwater model. And then in the 2021 planning cycle, still referenced the groundwater model, but I believe there's a little bit of a typo where we went from 24.4 on the median down to 23.9 on the median there. So just a little bit of change here over the planning cycles. Some of these things have been discussed, they've been noted locally. So we're here today to hopefully reduce some of the technical jargon around the DFC. That was one of the primary goals. This is hard for some people to read and understand. So there was focus on, hey, let's do something that is a little bit more plain language, as the board is going to be asking all of us to do here later this go around. So next slide, please. So at the end of the day, just alluded to this, there were some local management challenges that reduced clarity and linkage between the DFC and the underlying modeling scenario. The fact that the DFC is tied to end of year conditions, a lot of people would read 24.4 CFS on average and assume that meant daily. So some issues there as it related to the local management and then how that specifically ties to their DFC. And then the obvious disconnect between the MAG, so that 77,000 acre feet that went into the model, that resulted in a MAG around 70,000 acre feet for GMA7. Although historic pumping in Kinney County has ranged from around 4,000 up to about 15,000 based on some estimates and then reported pumping data. And then just overall confusion and stakeholder discontent regarding the annual DFC attainment review process. What we have on the right side of the screen is just a demonstration of that. What this does is I think it does a really good job of demonstrating just how unique this system is in terms of the range of outcomes given any year based on the amount of rainfall. This was a tool that was being used. However, this led to a lot of frustration locally for a variety of reasons. But all besides the point, because we're here today to discuss a new DFC. So where did we start? Where did we go? So back in August, the Kinney County Groundwater Conservation District directed Friesa Nichols, myself, to evaluate alternative approaches for calculating the MAG. We all know Texas Water Development Board calculates the MAG. We wanted to help and provide some assistance in terms of providing the Kinney County Groundwater Conservation District's recommendations for some alternative MAG calculations that would better reflect reality. So a departure from that scenario 3 groundwater model. December 16th, we went back to the board. We presented the board with 2 potential options. One of those options was to use a statistics-driven approach to support a revised MAG. Under that framework, we would have been around 6,000 acre-feet. That's using historic data, historic pumping, historic spring flow, historic precipitation to come to that conclusion. The second option, and this is about where I was called a demigorgon at some point in time, was to consider the Edwards-Trinity as non-relevant for joint planning purposes. Specifically for joint planning, we are up against it on time. We didn't think we would have enough time to get through the process of creating a new DFC or formulating one, workshopping that internally. So, using the best available data, science, and policy, believe that these were 2 viable options for the Kinney County Groundwater Conservation District at this point in time, based on where we were in this planning cycle. Wes, other directors, they didn't really like those 2 options. They told us to go back to the drawing board and then call this back to another meeting on January 5th. So January 5th, Kinney County had a special meeting. Prior to that meeting, had a conversation with Bill. Bill said, hey, y'all have more time if you need more time. That changed the game for us. We then realized, okay, we can try to come up with a new DFC. We do have some more time here. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for the extra time. And then, so at the conclusion of that January 5th meeting, I was directed to come up with some new DFC formulations specifically related to spring flow in Kinney County. Then that takes us to January 27th. We provided the board with 4 candidate DFC frameworks. So this was a single tier, a 2-tier, one that looked at water levels, and then the third one that was kind of a combination of a few different statistical indicators. At that point in time, the board said they liked a 1-tier metric. So just, X spring flow for some given time. And then also let's consider a 2-tier metric where we maybe consider a drought threshold in there. At a February 24th meeting, we presented an Excel-based calculator to demonstrate how different hypothetical DFCs would have performed under historical data. So really using that historical context to help guide discussion for us in terms of deciding, what is reasonable, what is attainable, trying to find that balance as it specifically relates to socioeconomics, protection of landowner rights, aligning with hydrologic conditions. So workshop this during the February 24th meeting. At the conclusion of that meeting, we did not have a new DFC, and then we were asked to come back for a special meeting at March 3rd, continue to workshop different DFC formulations. At the very end of that March 3rd meeting, reached the point to where we have a new DFC for the Edwards-Trinity Plateau and GMA7. Next slide, please. All right, so the Kinney County Board approved DFC is that daily mean spring discharge measured at Los Moras Springs shall not be less than 15 cubic feet per second when averaged over 5 years. So easy to understand, easy to read, easy to interpret. Still have a lot of work to do as it relates to management goals and strategies in terms of how the GCD is going to work towards that. But one of the tools that we were using throughout these discussions, I mentioned the Excel-based calculator. This is an example of one of the printouts from there where we looked at that historic data. And then where that puts us is historically about 88% of the time this condition was met. So it's a little bit of an aspirational DFC at the end of the day, but that's okay because we're going to develop rules, tools, policies that help us work towards that in the future. Next slide, please. All right, so the brief discussion on the 9 factors here to help the GMA facilitate this. We all know what they are, so we won't reiterate those one by one here, but over the next 9 slides, we'll touch on each and every one of these. All right, aquifer uses or conditions within the management area. I mentioned that we had a lot of workshops specifically related to this. Kind of some of those big takeaways here is that spring discharge is a clear local indicator of aquifer health. This DFC aligns with community values and improves transparency. It's grounded in historical record reflecting historic aquifer use and climatic conditions. So those graphs, those stacked graphs over here on the right side, that top one is looking at PDSI as a drought indicator, overlaying that with spring flow, which is the middle graph there. The areas where the bar or where the line drags into the yellow, orange, or red, you can see those also correspond with low flow periods in the spring. We've got some stars that correspond with when the spring went dry historically. And then that last graph down there is our pumping through time. So really making sure that we're looking at this as an all of the above here in terms of the approach, making sure all data was evaluated throughout this discussion. And then finally, Kinney County is at the southern end of the Edwards-Trinity Plateau. So whatever happens in Kinney County in terms of the management of groundwater, that's kind of unique and specific to Kinney County by being at that southern edge. So as it specifically relates to the rest of the management area, they're down there at the southern edge, kind of all water flows south. And so kind of end of the line there in terms of what that looks like for relevancy to the rest of the management area. All right, so water supply needs and management strategies in the state water plan, still using the same graphic. And that's the highlight, after we evaluate all this data, we were able to reach that conclusion that the existing DFC and MAG, that combination does not align with observed conditions. So the fact that this is informing the state water plan saying they have a 70,000 MAG, that wasn't realistic. That wasn't attainable in terms of a planning number. So now we're better aligned with state water plan needs and management strategies. And then once we've really thought through this and thought about what some of those end results were, this provides a clearer connection between management goals and planning at the end of the day for the county, for the management area, by having a more realistic number as it specifically relates to what potential MAG output will come from all of this. Hydrological conditions. So we evaluated spring flow alongside precipitation, groundwater pumping records, drought indices, considered spring flow from 1900 to present. That's the top graph up here. Reviewed spring discharge variability through drought periods. So not just looking at when we had drought, but the severity of drought, trying to better understand what that relationship was to spring flow, and then overlaying that with pumping as well. So really took a look at a lot of different things here to make sure that what we were doing made sense at the end of the day. And then I think we can go to the next slide from here, kind of repeating some points. Other environmental factors. There is a direct groundwater surface water linkage and environmental objective with this DFC that's clearly stated as having a DFC that is specifically centered around spring flow. Picture of Los Moras from the aerial view here, that direct conduit that from the spring orifice that then translates itself to surface flow. So those environmental impacts were considered throughout this discussion. And then this averaging approach using that 5-year window also accounts for some of the natural variability that we see due to changing climate patterns. And then that ability to have a 5-year averaging period also reduces some of that sensitivity to brief periods where things may get really dry, or also brief periods where things may get really wet. So averaging allows us to kind of better represent kind of what's happening over the long term is kind of the way we viewed this one here. Impact on subsidence in Kinney County and across the Edwards-Trinity Plateau aquifer. Subsidence is not known to be a geohazard associated with groundwater withdrawal. So aquifer systems out here, we got a lot of competent limestone geology, not a concern. Socioeconomic impacts reasonably expected to occur. Mentioned this, one of the things that the groundwater district really workshopped here really hard was to make sure that they were looking for a number that wasn't overly lenient or overly restrictive. So when we look at this graph, once again, it kind of puts us right there in the center in terms of trying to find that balance. So as part of the balancing act in the 9 factors, this one is where we actually spent a lot of focus, was really thinking about socioeconomics and landowner rights, which comes next year. But through that historical data, we let that guide discussion, let that guide conversation as it related to how are we going to land on a new DFC that is representative of how this system historically works. So just briefly mentioned it on the last slide here, kind of some of those private property interests and rights. Not maintaining current aquifer conditions could lead to decreased property values and reduced water availability for groundwater dependent industries such as agriculture. By selecting a target 15 CFS that is slightly lower than the average 17.7 CFS. So one good point to call out here is that historic record spring flow is 17.7, kind of depending on how you want to look at those numbers. One of the things that was considered is we're probably heading towards a warmer, drier climate. If that's the case, we maybe need to pull back a little bit from that average just to allow for some of that climatic variability to play into this, as we are talking a 50-year window in terms of how forward-looking we are in all this. So coming down to 15 CFS does accommodate for there potentially being less recharge in the future without being overly punitive to existing water users. Okay, feasibility of achieving DFC. I've discussed this a few different times now in terms of reiterating the point that there was a lot of workshopping that went into this. And so this is just a screenshot from the last meeting. We've got the screen up where we're workshopping the calendar. We've got Wes with a smile on his face.
That's unusual.
Director Palmer with a half grin. Actually some really good, productive, engaging conversation with board members, with local community members that really went into, we know we're picking a number that historically hasn't always been attained, but as a community, we believe this is the right number. We understand that about 88% of the time, this is something that has been attainable. But as a district, they're committed to adopting management goals and developing tools or rules that we can put in the toolbox to help better achieve this DFC in the future. So thought process there. And then next slide here, any other relevant information? How did we get here? The history and confusion created by the evolving DFC wording and the desire to improve interpretability and transparency of the previous DFC. The ongoing, persistent, relentless, exceptional drought, whatever you want to call it, we're all faced with it these days. That's been a driving force behind the scenes here. And then community engagement and stakeholder input, emphasizing the importance of Los Moras Springs as a focal management objective. So touched on all 9 factors now. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. Let's stay on that last one. What I'll be providing to Bill here, hopefully in about 3 or 4 weeks, is a draft technical memorandum that outlines all this in more detail, provides very specific discussion to the 9 factors, provides him with text he could hopefully copy and paste over into the explanatory report, but just trying to make the GMA's job as easy as possible at this point in time here.
Yeah, one of the things is whatever report you come up with will just be an appendix.
Okay.
So, and then all I gotta do is, in terms of the other, that's the easy part. I have to put something in the explanatory report to say, look at the appendix for detail. But you have a concise statement that we can put in, and I assume that then's the concise statement that you want, because eventually it'll have to be in a resolution.
Yes.
Okay. But that all comes later. Okay.
And was this statement of DFC, was that voted on? Was it a unanimous vote or was it?
No, actually, I believe that was 5-1. Yeah, 5-1. We had 1 vote against it. And 1 absent.
And 1 absent?
By the way, I'd like to go on the record and just to state, thank you for the extra time, Dr. Hutchison. And thank the committee for giving us the extra time to work on that. Because to be quite frank, I don't think we could have come to an agreement on anything if we hadn't have had that extra time. Appreciate that.
As you can see, we've had some of our own challenges getting things done.
I was
So
gonna say it was done selfishly for our own
there's
problems.
no problem there.
Well, ours are still in front of us too. Just for the record, Ms. Hobbs had a heart attack coming back from DMA 10, for those that didn't know it, so.
I
Yeah,
meant
we're a
to
little
say that
shorthanded
in the
right now.
beginning. Yeah. Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
She's doing well though.
Oh, She's doing well.
She's doing well.
Yes.
She's doing well.
Is she
and
home?
She's not at home. She's at a rehab in Uvalde. Doing rehabilitation right now. I've spoken to her on the phone day before yesterday. It's her first, Monday was her first day of rehab. She lasted about 5 minutes on the phone. She was tired. She didn't get off. She was like, they got hold of her before I did. I was stressed.
Man, for the spring.
I know. A lot of stress.
We all need to get our hearts checked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Any questions for Vince?
When do you think I'll have that report?
So we're planning to provide the report to the district Monday or Tuesday at latest of next week. They have a board meeting Tuesday evening. So that will be a draft report. We're hopeful we can get it done by Monday so directors can get eyes on it and offer us any comments that they may have.
Yeah.
And then we may need to send that back to the board with a stamp on it for their final approval.
It's not a time critical thing because the draft explanatory report that I put together will be for, it's a resource document for everybody's public hearing. Well, if I don't have the complete report of yours, you're the one that has to deal with that.
We'll have it
So I'll
complete
have-
by May 1st.
Yeah.
To answer your question.
Yeah, so I can take the statement, the concise DFC statement back and go in the report, in my report. If the appendix doesn't come in till later, there's a placeholder for it. And we'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. All right. Now we'll move on to item 10. So GMA 7, I'll send y'all that reconciliation report for February. There are a few districts who have not paid in, but I don't think it's anyone here. So I think I need to reach out to those. Otherwise, we have a bill, so I just need a motion to pay the bill and St. Williams makes that motion.
Second.
Diana Thomas, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any other matters? No? Sounds like we need to have another meeting fairly soon.
Can we just do a joint meeting again?
Yeah.
That's
That's what we said.
Oh,
In the bathroom, I already asked Greg if that would be all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'll sign in.
Because that would be.
That's all I'm gonna talk to him.
Hi, Sue. Good, yeah.
Calendar.
Are we looking at April?
Yes.
22nd.
No, I got 13 that day.
3rd.
23rd would be fine. Thursday. 23rd?
All right, April 23rd is on the table.
The Thursday.
This Thursday. Is your meetings Tuesdays? You don't want to do it the day after?
He's not available.
Oh,
No, I can't do it. I gotta be in Pleasanton on Wednesday, so I'll just pop up here for Thursday.
oh yeah,
Just
just a little.
Pleasanton.
I'm
John.
skipping a jump.
He likes to drive.
No, but I gotta be in Pleasanton on Friday, so.
Road
it
warrior.
splits it.
You have to be in Pleasanton on Wednesday and Friday?
No, I have to be there in 2 days.
Oh,
And then we have another meeting scheduled in April, so then we'll just flip it, which way I go first.
okay.
Okay.
23rd. And we have to do the draft by May 5th.
By May 1st
May 1st.
is the deadline.
So we're,
That's fine. No, all you're
We don't
doing,
need-
remember, let's go through that.
yeah.
All you're doing with the proposed is you're voting on a proposed DFC. then each of you will write a letter to the districts in your GMA.
Right.
Saying we've proposed a DFC and here it is. That triggers the 90-day public comment, during which each district has to hold a public hearing.
And last cycle, you prepared that for us. What we sent out.
Yeah, the letter, I mean, it's just, here it is. It's just a statement.
So
You're
you're
not doing resolutions, you're not
Right,
doing
right.
anything formal. This is just a way to kick things
public
back to the
comment.
district level to do the public hearings.
And you're saying that, so that would give, so like, assuming that we come up with that on the 23rd, then Ty and I have till the 1st to get that part done, the letters, the easy.
No, the vote is on, the proposed has to be done by the 1st. So if you take another 2 or 3 days to get the letter up, the only important thing about the date of the letter is that's the formal kickoff date for the 90-day public comment period.
So we're hoping to have all that wrapped up by April 23rd.
If everything works, at the 23rd, we'll have proposed DFCs for GMA 3 and GMA 7. Then y'all can write your letters and kick off the 90-day public comment period, which will take you.
Get them out.
And if we don't, if there's a problem, we have a week to sort it out. Okay. Okay. Okay,
Sounds
are
like-
y'all good with that?
It's gonna be at the district level because we got to post public hearing on every one of them.
All we're gonna do is post notice of a public hearing, right?
Pardon?
You said,
There's no public hearing on the 23rd. That is at the district level.
After the 1st.
Yeah. Just
So
sometime
we'll
during
have
the
to do that too.
sometime during the 90-day public comment period.
Yeah. Does everybody get it? Everybody good? So
back, see what.
April 23rd. April 23rd. If we're gonna do model runs, do you want to do 10 or is 10:30 okay? 10:30? All right. So 3 and 7 joint meeting, 10:30 on the 23rd. I'm assuming here, but I have to make sure it's available that day. If not, I'll send y'all an email. You want to move? Everybody good? Okay. Let's move on to 13. So I just need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Hi, Edwards. Seconds. Do y'all need a motion to adjourn?
No, that is the motion.
You said 10:30?
10:30. Is that good for you? Yeah. All right, all in favor? Thank y'all so much.